Well, Labour Union COSATU in Parliament has described the attitude of Higher Education and Training Minister Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane last week before Parliament as arrogant. Nkabane was grilled by members of the Portfolio Committee on Higher Education and Training on the process of the appointment of SETA board members. The minister had cancelled the appointment of the chairpersons of the SETAs following an outcry over some of the candidates. Well, COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator Mr. Matthew Parks says SETAs are actually funded through the salaries of the workers. And COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator Mr. Matthew Parks joins us now to further unpack this. Matthew, it's always great to have you with us. How are you doing this afternoon? So we all watch with some embarrassment the proceedings in Parliament when, of course, the Department of Higher Education had appeared to clarify the SETA matter. COSATU has since labelled the minister's behaviour as arrogant. Tell us why.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. Look, I think number one, we must understand and appreciate that SETAs are set up by a law of Parliament to raise money through workers' salaries, through deductions, and to fund specifically the skills development, the training needs of workers to make sure they can remain employed, to help boost the productivity of their companies or the workplaces, but also to help make sure they can remain competitive in an ever increasingly technologically driven economy. So the SETAs are there to train workers. They're not there to feather the nests of family friends, of politicians, of dubious business people. And so we were quite alarmed for many years, actually, to be honest, by what's been happening in many of the SETAs. Often you see reports of monies spent on dubious courses, money's rolled over, money's lost to corruption. This Parliament has been quite busy since the elections, having to repeatedly intervene in different SETAs with regards to quite worrying allegations of serious corruption by management and so forth. And so I think society was correctly quite astounded, including ourselves, to see the recent initial proposals for chairpersons by the minister, by people who really had no connection to the different economic sectors. It didn't make sense. It really raised concerning alarm bells, especially given the real problems of corruption, of state capture we've had over the past decade. And I think when the Portfolio Committee tried to get clarity from the minister, from the department, the minister was found seriously wanting. I think the discussion in that committee didn't give real answers, and I think they've had to give her repeated follow-up questions to say what exactly is going on. Can you really explain it? I think that's why the president himself, Cyril Ramaphosa, was also forced to intervene this week to say he also actually wants clarity on what exactly is going on. And that can be a good thing. The SETAs have huge amounts of money. It's about 25 billion rand, give or take. We have about 24 SETAs, or just under. And really, there needs to be a thorough interrogation. Is the money being spent correctly? Is it really helping to improve the skills of workers, to help grow the economy, to help improve productivity and create jobs? And if it's not, and we think that in many instances it's not, then we really need to see real interventions. It shouldn't be treated as if this is some sort of entitlement to politicians or business people or other hanger-ons. And when Parliament calls ministers to account, they must come and they must account. They must not view as a burden to themselves or as an inconvenience, and they should not be seen to be dismissive of when members of Parliament are asking legitimate questions.
Very interesting that you mentioned that, of course, Matthew, that the president has since asked the minister to actually furnish him with a report as to what actually transpired there. But we understand in her report back to the president, she clearly states that, she wasn't disengaging with the members of the committee. And she argues that, in fact, she wasn't chewing gum. She was actually, she was allowed by the chairperson, or the whole committee sitting had been allowed to actually have some food. But I want to know, as COSATU, Matthew, will you be seeking any redress constitutionally to address this matter? Because we understand ministers in Parliament who exhibit bad behavior can actually face various forms of punishment, including suspension, written warnings, and even dismissals.
Well, I don't know if they can face all of those issues. So the president's got the right to dismiss any minister for any reason. Doesn't need to give an explanation. So they serve at his pleasure in the Constitution. Parliament has got the right to subpoena ministers, to summon them. But unfortunately, this minister, she did respond. But we do need to see the minister not just appearing before the committee, but actually giving meaningful responses. And to be honest, in that committee meeting this past week, it really was not convincing. The minister seemed to be waffling at times. But look, I think for us, what the more critical thing is, can we have a thorough discussion about the SETAs? It's not just a crisis of this minister. The SETAs have been a mess for many, many years. This minister has only been there, in fact, just 12 months. The SETAs have been a mess long before she entered the scene, I think, to be fair to her. And I think we do need a thorough conversation that really our SETAs are not in a good state. We've got about 22 of them, roughly. And if we're honest, we'll really say, are the SETAs providing the skills the economy requires? And by any indicator, they're not. When you have companies complaining they don't have certain skills, then what exactly are the SETAs doing to provide those skills? There seems to be a lack of a conversation in that regard. When you have companies saying, well, they can only get certain professions from neighboring states. Yet again, we have a 43% unemployment, even higher in our townships. Again, what exactly are the SETAs doing to fill that gap? And when there are critical or scarce skills that we don't have as a country, again, what exactly are the SETAs doing to fill that vacuum, to make sure we localize those skills amongst young people in our local communities, in our townships, in our rural areas, etc. And I think any indicator is not a good picture. Yet the SETAs have got significant money. I mean, 25 billion rand is not pocket change. And again, that's money that's not raised from the fiscus. That's raised from deductions for employees paid to the state with one specific purpose. And too often, even in December, this same portfolio committee had to intervene. I think it was the construction SETA, where it appeared that the management there was taking the board on a jaunt around the world for 30 days, collecting huge amounts of per diems. And we see that in many, many SETAs. We saw one SETA, I think it was the banking SETA, rolling over about 600 million rand of unspent funds in a single year.
And Matthew, sorry, just to get in there quickly, I mean, in the interest of time as well, I'm very glad that you're outlining some of the challenges inherent within the SETAs. But when you raise these issues in Parliament, what is the response that you're receiving?
It's a mixed response, to be honest. And, many of these issues have been there for a long time, and they're not secrets. People know about it. And that's why I think for us, we are collectively guilty as a country, whether it's government, whether it's business, whether it's even us as Labour, that really we're not getting value for money out of these things. And I think that's why this week's discussion can be a useful thing, not just to discuss personalities of a minister, was she chewing gum or not, because those are really peripheral issues. The really issue should be, are we getting value for money from the SETAs? And are they responding to the needs of workers for skills training? Are they responding to the needs of the economy? And to be honest, they're not doing that. We've been raising for quite some time. I know some members of Parliament have also been raising quite substantially as well. But it has not generated the response that we would need. So I think that's why the President's intervention is a good thing. But again, we must go much more beyond the optics of a single committee meeting. Chewing gum or whatever, it's neither here nor there. The fundamental issues, we have an economic crisis, we've got a productivity crisis. Our economy is becoming increasingly less competitive in a very globalized world economy. And we have a ticking time bomb of 43% unemployment, 72% youth unemployment. We have many people desperate for jobs. And again, companies are saying we don't have these skills locally. So the SETAs are the missing ingredient, and they really need to come to the party. So we would really hope this could serve as a wake-up call to the minister herself to look beyond the personalities of who you're indulging as a chair of a committee, of a SETA board, but really what exactly are they doing and how are they benefiting the economy, how are they benefiting workers?
Absolutely, Matthew. The issue there was really about her conduct, how she conducted herself, not necessarily the chewing of gum. But we're going to leave it there. Thank you so much for engaging with us there. Mr. Matthew Parks is the COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator on the Minister of Higher Education's conduct during her appearance in Parliament.